Here's a question worth sitting with for a moment. If the price of something you own dropped by 30% this year, would you call that bad news? Or an opportunity? Most people would say, bad news, obviously, but lately, some of the biggest names in finance have been saying something different. Strategy's CEO recently said that Bitcoin's current headwinds, the falling prices, the bad sentiment, the panic, could eventually become tailwinds. In plain English, the same thing that's scaring people right now might be the very thing that helps later. Now, this video isn't about whether Bitcoin is a good investment. We're not going to tell you to buy it, sell it, or fear it. What's actually interesting here isn't the asset, it's the thinking, because the gap between how professional investors talk about volatility and how everyday people feel about money says a lot about why so many financially capable people still feel stuck. So let's talk about that gap. Picture someone in their late 20s. Let's call her Maria. She lives in a mid-sized US city, works a stable office job, and takes home around $4,200 a month after taxes. Her rent is $1,450. Her car payment is $390. She's still chipping away at $28,000 in student loans, paying about $310 a month. She's got a credit card balance from a rough year, maybe $4,000, and the minimum payment eats another $120. Add groceries, insurance, phone, subscriptions, the occasional dinner out with friends because, honestly, life has to have some joy in it. And by the time the month ends, Maria has maybe $150 left, sometimes less. She's not reckless. She's not irresponsible. By most standards, she's doing everything right. And yet, she has almost nothing growing for her future. Here's the quiet problem, and it has nothing to do with Bitcoin, stocks, or any specific investment. Maria's entire financial life is built around reacting to short-term feelings about money, about stability, about not wanting to feel behind. Every dollar she earns gets assigned a job the moment it arrives. Rent, car, debt. A little bit of fun because she's earned it. What never gets assigned a job? The future version of Maria. This is the invisible pattern, not overspending in any dramatic way, but never deciding on purpose what portion of income is not for today. When every headwind, every bad month, every dip in motivation becomes a reason to delay saving until things calm down, things never calm down. There's always a reason. Let's make this concrete with very ordinary numbers. Suppose Maria found just $200 a month to invest, not in anything exotic, just a simple low-cost index fund tracking the broader market. Historically, that kind of investment has averaged somewhere around 7% a year after inflation over long periods. Past performance doesn't guarantee anything, but let's use it as a rough reference point. $200 a month for 30 years at 7% average annual growth comes out to roughly $245,000. The total she actually put in? $72,000. The rest, over $170,000, came purely from time and compounding, not from working harder, not from a side hustle, just from not delaying the start. Now here's the uncomfortable part. If Maria waits 5 years to start, telling herself she'll begin once the credit card is paid off, once things feel more stable, that same $200 a month, now over 25 years instead of 30, grows to around $162,000. Same monthly amount, same effort. The 5-year delay costs her over $80,000. That's not a lecture about discipline. It's just what time does. So why do so many people, smart, capable people, end up waiting? Part of it is social comparison. When everyone around you is leasing a newer car, renting a slightly nicer apartment, or posting vacation photos, investing $200 a month feels small and invisible by comparison. It doesn't look like progress. There's no immediate feedback. Part of it is emotional regulation. After a hard week, Spending money on something, a meal out, a new pair of shoes, a subscription, provides instant relief. Saving provides nothing instant. The brain is wired to prefer the thing it can feel now, and part of it is genuine fear. Financial uncertainty is uncomfortable, so people seek the feeling of stability, a slightly better apartment, a newer car, even if it quietly reduces their actual long-term stability. None of this makes anyone foolish. It makes them human. The financial system and a culture built on visible consumption is simply very good at making the present feel urgent and the future feel optional. If this pattern continues for 10 or 15 years, not through any single bad decision, but through this slow, quiet postponement, the outcome is predictable. Income tends to rise, but so does lifestyle. The nicer apartment becomes normal, the newer car becomes necessary, and the gap between what's earned and what's invested stays roughly the same, just with bigger numbers attached. The result isn't dramatic financial collapse. It's something quieter. Being in your 40s, earning more than you ever imagined in your 20s, and still feeling like retirement or freedom or any real cushion is somehow always another decade away. Not because of one mistake, because of years of reasonable-sounding delays. This is where that idea, headwinds becoming tailwinds, actually becomes useful, even outside of Bitcoin or markets entirely. People who build long-term financial security tend to treat short-term discomfort differently. A market downturn, a tighter month, a year where things feel uncertain. Instead of treating that as a signal to pause their long-term plan, they treat it as part of the plan. The discomfort isn't a detour. It's the cost of eventually getting somewhere. There's also a quieter shift in how they think about visible wealth versus actual wealth. The nicer car, the bigger apartment, these are visible signals aimed at other people. Long-term financial security is mostly invisible, a number in an account that nobody else sees, that doesn't impress anyone at a dinner party, but that quietly changes what your life looks like in 20 years. It's not about depriving yourself. It's about not confusing the two, and not letting the visible one quietly consume the resources meant for the invisible one. None of this means Maria's life is wrong, or that anyone watching this needs to overhaul everything tomorrow. Most people are doing the best they can with the information and pressures they've inherited. But there's something worth noticing in how professional investors talk, calmly, almost unemotionally, about downturns and difficulty. Not because they don't feel it, but because they've decided in advance that short-term discomfort doesn't automatically mean stop. That same calm, that same willingness to separate what feels urgent from what actually matters long-term is available to anyone, regardless of income, regardless of what's in their portfolio, or whether they have one at all. Awareness doesn't fix a budget overnight, but it does change how the next decision gets made. If this kind of thinking is useful to you, consider subscribing. There's more of this coming.